Now, the former Bosnian Serb military leader Ratco Mladic has been sentenced to life in prison by the UN tribunal in The Hague. The 74-year-old was found guilty of genocide and crimes against humanity during the Bosnian War in the 1990s. The court convicted Mladic of 10 of the 11 charges he faced. Among them, he was found guilty of genocide in the village of Srebrenica. That was when up to 8,000 Bosnian Muslims were slaughtered by forces under the general's control. Serbia, while condemning the killings, has never accepted the official definition of genocide. Well, let's discuss this further now with political analyst John Bosnitch. Mr. Bosnitch, thank you for joining us on the programme. So is this a verdict that you had anticipated?
This verdict was anticipated even before the court was formed. During the civil war in Bosnia, the European powers which were backing the Muslim side and backing the Croat side were calling General Ratco Mladic a war criminal even before the court was formed to try him. He was never given a presumption of innocence even from the first day.
Then are you surprised that the trial lasted as long as it did?
Well, you know, if you're going to try and fool the people, it sometimes takes quite a lot of time to do it. So you draw the trial out, you let both sides appear to have had a fair trial, you let them present evidence, you disregard the evidence that shows that the accused party is innocent. You refer only to the evidence that is proven in various documents to be untrue, and then you convict him. So what we have here is not the delivery of justice through a lengthy and detailed trial, but a very complicated and purposely drawn-out show trial to keep the name Mladic, General Mladic, in the news for the better part of a decade, and to thereby demonize the entire Serbian people.
Mladic was accused of crimes against humanity. It's a very high-profile case. Are you confident that all of those who committed such crimes during the war in Yugoslavia have been brought before the tribunal?
Well, that's the best question. The point is that the tribunal was a one-sided, let's say, tool of the NATO powers. The purpose of the tribunal was to find one side guilty, and that we knew that that was the Serbian side because they were accused of being war criminals long before the court was even formed. So there's no surprise about the way it was done. What is surprising is that anybody anywhere expected even the slightest chance that General Mladic might be acquitted. That, I'm sure, no normal, rational person could have expected. And not because he's guilty, but because he was determined to be found guilty even before the first witness presented any evidence. So long as the public knows that there was no other possible verdict, even if the man were innocent, then that's fine. The NATO powers have had their show trial. We've had the media report upon it. We know what the media are. We know especially what the mainstream media who pushed this case are. They've been described by the U.S. president as the lying mainstream media. Well, chalk one more up to them. Another lie yet perpetrated through the instruments of the court and the lying media. But I can tell you that here in downtown Belgrade, in the main central park in the city, there are rows of stands for tourists to buy things. And among the things they can buy are T-shirts with General Mladic's face on them and generals' hats of the type exactly worn by General Mladic. And I can tell you that later today there's going to be a run on those stalls, and you're going to see young children aged 10 and 12 years old buying those T-shirts and buying those generals' hats, the same general's hat that NATO Commander-in-Chief Wesley Clark put on his head when he exchanged hats with General Mladic. If Wesley Clark, a fellow general, was willing to put on the hat of General Mladic and be photographed arm in arm with him in the fellow general's hat, doesn't that tell us a little bit more about what the reality is here? War is hell. And it doesn't matter which side you're on, you're going to be killing people. The war was promoted by the West. The West pushed the Muslims into the war. They provided them with weapons. They backed them through the war, and the lying media delivered the verdict. Now we're just doing the autopsy on the death of justice. not on the conviction of General Mladic, but on the death of justice.
Political analyst John Bosnitch, thank you for speaking to us on RT International.